Okay, here's the job for today. You got my Honda Pioneer 700 4-seater right here. This is a great side-by-side. I think Honda makes the best side-by-side on the market. But the engine runs pretty hot. So what I'm going to do about this heat issue, I've got this blower motor, which I bought online. It runs at about 130 cubic feet per minute. It's low power. It's only a 2.5 amp motor. And I've got this thermostat. And this thermostat has a thermometer that comes with it. And I'm going to mount the thermostat and thermometer somewhere down there close to the engine. And so when it reaches a preset temperature, it's going to turn on the motor. And I'm going to mount this blower motor somewhere like that, somewhere down in here. And it'll turn on the motor. The motor's going to pull cool air in from the back side. I'm going to route cool air through PVC pipe, try and blow the cool air against the engine and dissipate some of that heat that normally comes up through the seat, and hopefully help cool the engine as well. So, by the way, a couple of people have asked me what's underneath the hood of the Pioneer because it has a small hood. Well, here's what you got. The fuse box right there. Got the power steering pump there. Now, I've got the deluxe model of the Pioneer. Not all of them have power steering. There's the brake fluid reservoir and pump. There's your radiator. There's the radiator overflow jug. And there's the fan. Now, you can also put an extra battery on the Pioneer, and I'm going to do so in a couple of weeks because I'm going to add a winch to mine. The extra battery goes right here. This is not actually made for an extra battery, but it's a convenient mounting spot. Now, if you buy the Pioneer 1000, it's actually got a little box in it where you can add an extra battery. So it's designed for you to add an extra battery. But the 700 is not, but it's not hard to do. You can buy a kit on Amazon, put it in about 45 minutes. Okay, I got underneath the Pioneer and looked at it. I think the best place to put the blower motor is on the bottom side of this bar where the oil filler cap is mounted. So if I put it right there, it blows air almost directly toward the engine. So what I've got to do is hold this in place long enough to first put some holes to put some mounting screws in it. So let's do this. Got a couple of wire ties here. I'm going to put on. This may sound crazy, but it works. Just like that. This is just temporary. I'm not going to secure it with wire ties, I promise. So, let's see. Put a wire tie on like that. Put another one on like that. And those are going to be on there just long enough to hold this thing in place. So I can drill some mounting holes. So let's see, right there. All right. So the wire ties will hold the blower motor in place so I can get underneath the Pioneer and mark my spot so I can drill some mounting holes. So let's do that. Okay, here's what it looks like from the underside. So if you can see, I've got the wire ties holding the motor on, and I've got this cool little tool right here to mark my hole spots. And all I gotta do is scratch around right there and come over here to the other side, do the same thing. All right, now let's drill the holes. Okay, let's put the blower motor on, and let's see, it needs to point in that direction. Okay, I didn't show me putting this bolt in because I had to use a few choice words to convince it to get in place, and I didn't think you guys wanted to hear that. Putting the screws up from the bottom to the top has a couple of advantages. First, it's easier. Second, this way I can tell if the nuts come off. If they're on the bottom, I won't be able to tell until I notice my pump has fallen off, so I don't want that to happen. All right. So now that's in place, Now I've got to figure out how to hook up my PVC, so let's go underneath and do that. Okay, so I can run, let's see. I got a 45-degree elbow because I want to control the airflow through that end of this over towards the engine, and this is the best way to do it. But on this end, I'm going to put a sort of a downspout with a 90-degree elbow, and then another 90-degree elbow pointing backwards towards the where the cool air is going to come in. So I'm going to cut a piece of pipe and join these two together. Okay, so I've got to join two of these together, just like that. Okay, so inside this PVC there's an inset area which is exactly 1.5 inches. So I need a piece of this pipe to join two of these, so it needs to be 3 inches. And as you can see, I made some blue marks all around this right at 3 inches. So what I'm going to do now is cut this pipe. There we go. So this goes in like that. The other piece goes on like that. And we have a pipe, which I can now hook onto the blower motor. Okay, now we got to glue these guys together. So put some glue in it, just like that. Now, got to figure out a way to hook this up to the blower motor. Okay, so I got my pipe here. Let's put it in here and see how it looks. I like to look at everything, judge it by eye before I hook it up. So it's going to come along like that, and then I'm going to put some pipe hangers right there and right there to secure the pipe. Now I'm going to glue, I'm not going to glue, I'm going to connect the PVC to the blower motor with this metallic aluminum tape. And this tape is made for high temperature application. I'm also going to use a couple of pipe hangers. This is a pipe hanger. You can buy this at a hardware store. It's already got holes pre-drilled. It's made to put around a 3-inch pipe. And let me see if I can demonstrate that. See, it fits around this opening on the pipe. You have to work with it a little bit. And I'm also going to put another pipe hanger on the other end of the pipe like that. And I'm going to suspend it from this bar right here that the blower motor is mounted on. So I'm going to have 2 hangers plus the silver tape around this, and I think that'll hold it pretty solid. So let's get on that. Okay, so first, let me start with just a small piece of this tape to secure the pipe in position. Okay, I got the PVC put on the pump, and that was a pain in the butt, but it's pretty solid. I'll come back and trim off that screw and trim these 2 screws also. So this pipe hanger right here, I don't know if you can see it, I put under this screw, connected it on the bottom. Let's just get down to the bottom and take a look at it. It actually came out pretty good. So the pipe is hooked onto the blower there. I've got a pipe hanger connected to the bottom of the there's sort of an inset cavity under the seat. The pipe hanger is connected to that through one of these screws. I went and put the aluminum high temperature tape around the pipe hanger and the entrance to the pump and the PVC. It's super solid. And I went back here on the back side of the PVC. I put another pipe hanger looped it around that bar and connected it to the bottom of the place in the back seat where you put your feet, and this is super solid too. And I also put the high temperature tape around it. That'll hold really well. I'm going to come back, I think, and put one more. This is really solid, but I think I'm going to put one more pipe hanger right here, probably somewhere around this joint. But the pump is in place. It's real solid. This is pretty solid. I'm going to have to watch it just to make sure it doesn't bump around too much. And somebody asked me the other day, was I worried about water getting in this pipe? And I'm really not, because I never go more than about a foot deep in water, and this pipe is right at 18 inches off the ground. Plus, you'd have to go up another 8 inches before, well, right there, I didn't have the camera in the right place. Another 8 inches before water could get up to the blower motor. So the blower motor's probably a little bit over 2 feet off the ground. And I never go in more than about a foot and a half of water, so I should be good, but I'll keep an eye on that. Anyhow, everything's solid, so next, let's go ahead and get started and hook up our electrical. Here's how the thermostat circuit works that controls the blower motor. This is the actual circuit. It's an XH-W1209 by UMLIFE. I bought 2 of these, I think, for $12 on Amazon. The circuit board comes in a static-free bag like that. It also comes with a thermometer, and the thermometer plugs onto the circuit board and through this little white connector right there. The actual thermometer is in this little silver can thing on the end of this. So, and this cord is about 1.5 feet long, so it has to be mounted fairly close to this. This circuit has a little display which you use to program it. It's got a couple of buttons, 3 buttons that you use to set the on and off temperature. It's got this terminal block right here that has an X or a K0, K1, 12 volt and ground. And here's how this works. The blower motor connects up to K0 and to ground. The negative ground terminal connects to the negative terminal of your battery. Then your K1 and your 12 volt connect together. They go through a fuse and through a switch and to the positive terminal on your battery. And the reason I put a fuse in here is I want to make sure that under no circumstances does the blower motor or the thermostat together pull more than 5 amps. Sometimes a motor, if it gets into a bind, like if a leaf happens to get up in here or a stick and it puts the motor into a bind, the current can really peak, and when it peaks, I want to make sure, or if it peaks, I want to make sure it doesn't pull more than 5 amps. The switch is nothing more than a simple toggle switch like this. It's either on or off. This is also called an SPST switch for single pole, single throw. Let's see, I'm going to coat the circuit board in clear fingernail polish to waterproof it after I put all my wires into the little terminal block here. And this fingernail polish, I don't know what brand this is. This says Top Coat. It's non-conductive, so it's a good waterproofing agent. Now I'm going to put this circuit board inside this little black box. This is actually the box that my media mod for my GoPro came in. And it's perfect to mount this circuit board in. It's just the right size. So when I put it in, I'm also going to put some silicone in here to seal the box up. I'm going to have to drill some holes in the box so that the wires can poke in here and go to the terminal block. I'm going to have to put a hole in the top for the thermometer to plug onto the circuit board, but that's all pretty easy. Also, when you get this thermostat circuit, you get the set of instructions right here, which are real simple. There's not much to it. They pretty much just show you how to wire it up and show you how to use the 3 buttons to set your temperature you want it to turn on and off at. Real simple. And I've used one of these before. It does a really good job. So anyhow, that's all there is to it. It's a simple circuit, and let's go and hook it up. Okay, I want the blower to turn on when the thermometer hits 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And the thermometer is mounted underneath the front seat on the bottom of the base plate above the engine. So 90 degrees Fahrenheit is 32.2 Celsius, and I did this conversion because the thermostat measures everything in Celsius. And in case you want to know, here's how you convert Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit. Or you could just ask Google for it. You could say, hey Google, convert 90 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius.
90 degrees Fahrenheit is equivalent to 32.222 degrees Celsius.
Thanks. I think that's what most people do. Anyhow, this is where the two scales got their name. You can look these two guys up on Wikipedia. Both geniuses. All right, so we'll put the toggle switch in right there. All right, put this ring on. All right, so that's what the toggle switch looks like. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and mount this little circuit in this box just so I can keep the circuit from getting damaged. Okay, there we go. A nice little compartment for my thermostat circuit. All right, now I got to drill the holes in it for the terminal connectors and the thermometer. Okay, I got my holes drilled in the box. This is the size wire that goes in, and the holes are just the right size for the wire to go in. See, just like that. So once I waterproof the circuit board and I put some silicone in here or some sort of waterproofing in here, this should be just fine. Plus, this box is not going to be down at the water level. The box is going to be mounted probably, let me show you. I think I'm going to mount this box on the bottom side of this because that's a nice area in here that never gets wet. In fact, it doesn't even get muddy when I run through a lot of mud. So I think it'll be okay right there. But anyhow, the holes are drilled. Now I've got this hole marked for my thermometer, and I've got to create a rectangular hole for it. So let's do that. Okay, finally I got this hole cut in here. Now if I can just learn how to plug in the thermometer right. There we go, thermometer's in. All right, so thermometer goes through that hole. My electric lines go through these other holes. Just like that. So you open it up, there you go. So this is not perfect, but it's actually a pretty good solution. So I'll put some silicone in here to seal this up, probably put some silicone around those holes. I'll put fingernail polish on the circuit board to make it waterproof, maybe put some more silicone or padding around this, and this should be good to go. So now it's time to hook it up. All right, let's make a couple of connector ends to put on the blades for this switch. A lot of people just crimp these connectors onto a cable. I don't like to do that. I do crimp them, but I also like to solder them. So I'll crimp them and then come back and solder them also. So I've got to run this wire from this area down through here underneath the footboard of the Pioneer and back up behind the dash and hook onto that. So let's do that. Okay, here's the red wire. I pulled it up through the front end of the Pioneer. You probably can't see it. Hooked it up in there to the toggle switch. Okay, I said this end hooks into the battery. That was wrong. This end actually hooks into this blade connector, and that blade connector has to hook into the fuse right there. So the fuse hooks to the battery. The fuse sits between the battery and the toggle switch. Okay, that blade connector is finished. That's a male blade connector. Now I've got a female blade connector that has to hook into the other side of the toggle switch. So let's put that on. Okay, I got the other wire hooked up to the toggle switch. This end of the wire goes into the power terminal to the thermostat inside the box, which is right there. So I wanted to put this box right down in here. The problem is the thermometer cable they give you to go to the thermostat is only about that long. It's only a little over a foot long, maybe a foot and a half. So the box has to go somewhere over here closer to the blower motor. So I think what I'm going to do is mount the box on the underside of this panel. So what I'm going to do for now is just strip off enough wire that I know will stretch over there. I know I'm going to waste a little bit of wire, but you know, that's what you got to do. So there we go. All right, so I got my wire cut. Now the next thing is right over here. I'm ready to hook up my fuse to the battery and to the other end of the switch or the other end of the cable that goes to the toggle switch. So whenever I connect two things like this, I always like to use heat shrink on it. So I'm going to put some heat shrink tubing there. All right, that's good. Okay, I'm looking at my battery and how messy this area is getting. I've got too many cables here. I've got front lights, rear lights. I'm adding the blower motor. I'm going to add a winch next week. I've already ordered my isolator. So you got positive and ground for all that. So I think this is a good time to actually put in a bus bar to get all these cables off the battery. Okay, the homemade bus bar is finished. Got it in place. It's nice and secure. So I've got this thick cable going from the positive battery terminal over to the terminal on the positive bus bar. And I've got this cable. Now this is a red cable with black tape on it because I ran out of black cable. It's going from the negative battery terminal over here, and notice I've got both ends of the cable wrapped in black Gorilla tape. I'll come back later and put a black cable on that. Anyhow, that cable goes to the negative bus bar. So also I've got my lights and my blower motor hooked into the same post on the bus bar. And the reason is I've got to put different connectors on these cables to hook into the small screws, and I ran out of connectors, so I just hooked them onto the poles for now. And that's fine. When you put the seat on here, there's actually about 1.5 inches of clearance between the bottom of the seat and the top of this bus bar, so we're good to go. So next thing to do is hook up that guy. So let's get on it. Okay, everything is wired up. I've got my thermostat all wired up. I've got the brown wire here, which goes to the provides power to the blower motor. I got my 2 red wires here, which according to the diagram, you have to hook your power up to both those. Then we have the ground wire on the very end. I got my thermostat plugged in. Here's my homemade bus bar, which is working good. I moved my accessory cables from the main battery over to the bus bar. There's my fuse that provides power from the bus bar over to the thermostat. And let me make a point here. I kept blowing fuses because while I was splicing these, doing this butt splice on these power wires going to the thermostat, these red wires kept brushing up against the chassis of the Pioneer and they were shorting out. So if you do something like this, leave your fuses out until you're finished hooking everything up. All right, so let's demonstrate this. So what I'm going to do is turn on power. And you can see there my thermostat has power. So I've got my thermometer gripped in my wire cutters just so I can do a test right here. And I'm going to heat this up, heat up the thermometer with my Wagner heat gun. And when I'm done, I'm going to cool it down with some ice I've got in this cup. So I've got the thermostat set to turn on at 80 degrees. So when the temperature goes above 80, it'll turn on. When the temperature drops below 80, it'll turn off. And there's a 2-degree differential, so it has to actually go down to 78 degrees, and that's all Celsius, so we're talking 80 degrees Celsius. Also, this thermostat has an upper limit of 110 degrees Celsius, so if I go above 110, this has a safety factor that's going to make it turn off at 110, so I'm going to try and stop it before I get that high. All right, so let's turn on the heat gun, heat this thing up, and I'm going to let you watch the temperature go up. Alright, so notice the temperature is increasing now, and it's going to climb really fast. Alright, the blower motor turned on. So now I'm going to put, I dropped the fuse. I'm going to put ice on the thermometer, just like that, and you can see the temperature drop. See? Temperature dropped below 80 and it turned off. So let's do that one more time. Let's put the heat gun back on here. Alright, temperature's going back up. Alright, it went above 80 and it turned off. So now, let's put our ice cube back on here. And the temperature is going to go back down. Temperature went down below 80 and it turned off, so it's working great. That's a thumbs up. Okay, it occurred to me that if you're watching this at home, you really can't tell when the motor's blowing. So I put this pretty pink string on there, and I've got everything set in place. There's my thermometer, there's my thermostat. So I'm going to take the heat gun and heat it up again and let you watch the string start dancing around when it gets hot. Alright, so let's go. Turn that on. See the heat start going up. Right about now, it should start coming on. There we go. So it's on. So now I'm going to put some ice on the thermometer. Oh, it turned off by itself, so it went back down. Okay. So let's try that again. I left my heat gun on. Heat gun's on. Temperature's going up. There's the string. Alright. Put the ice on. And the string stops. Alright, so this is working great. Okay, before I seal the thermostat up in this box, I want to show you how to program it. Right now I've got it set to turn on at 80 degrees. So there's three buttons. The left button is the set button, then you got a plus button and a minus button. And plus and minus are the way you increase and decrease the set temperature. So you push your set button and you can see that it shows the set temperature 80. If I hold down the plus button, it starts to count up. And if I hold down the minus button, it starts to count down. And the longer you hold the button, the faster the counter goes. So what I'm going to do is set this to turn on at 80, like I originally had it. I'm holding my plus button until it gets to 80 degrees. And if you overshoot 80, just push your minus button a couple of times, it'll go back down. Now after about 2 seconds, the display is going to go back to normal mode. You don't have to push anything. And there you see it went back to 29.5, which is what the thermometer reads. So this circuit is extremely simple. There's some different settings in the instructions you can set. You don't have to change any of that when you first use this. You only change that if you're going to do more complex stuff than what I'm doing with this blower motor. Alright, so now I'm going to waterproof this, and we're going to close it up and put it up underneath the seat. Okay, waterproofing time. Here's the fingernail polish. Here's what you do. You just put it right on the board just like that. Nothing fancy. It's not too difficult. You just put it on the board. I'm not going to put it on the display, but I'm going to make sure that all the circuits are coated. And I'm going to try and not put it all over the buttons because I don't want the buttons to harden up and become impossible to change the temperature. That's really all there is to it. Just brush it on, give it about 20 minutes to harden up, and that's it. Now ideally I would do the top and bottom of the board. For now I'm only going to do the top. I'm giving it a really thick coating. Yeah, so alright, that's good. Let that sit for a few minutes. We'll close it up and put the board in its final place. Okay, now I'm going to seal this box up, and the last thing I'm going to do is put some waterproofing silicone in the hole where the thermometer plugs in. But for now, I've got this tape I'm going to use to seal the box to keep it shut. Well, I don't mean to seal it, to actually make the box stay closed. All right. Okay, here's where I think I'm going to put the box for now. I've got this cable hanger. If I bend the end up, that'll be a nice support for the box. I can put it right there and use wire ties to connect it. And I'll come back later after I know everything is working really good, and I'm going to do a better job of waterproofing and taping up the box. So for now, let's just put some wire ties on it here and get it set in place like this. So there's one. Let's put another one on there. All right. Okay, that box is not going to go anywhere now. It's good. All right, so let's get all these wires pulled up and put out of the way, and then we'll figure out where the thermometer needs to go. Okay, everything is in place. I got wire ties securing all my cables. There's the thermometer on the bottom side of the seat. So now it's time to do a road test and see if this puppy works. Okay, slight design flaw. What I realized after riding the Pioneer for a few minutes is the cool air intake is actually pulling hot air off the muffler right there. That's the muffler, and pushing it back on the engine. So it does me no good if I push heat back onto a hot surface. So here's my fix. I got a 45-degree elbow to go on this 3-inch pipe, and I'm going to put the elbow on, and hopefully the elbow will pull cool air in from the outside instead of pulling hot air in from the muffler over there. So I'm going to secure it in place temporarily with this metallic tape. Hopefully that'll hold it in place so we can do a test ride. So let's see. Get up under here. Put the tape on just like that. There we go. All right, so let's do a test ride now. Okay, last thoughts on the cooling fan project. First, I gotta say it did exactly what I wanted. It cools this whole area of the seat and the front of the Pioneer a lot. It dissipates a lot of the heat that normally comes up from the engine. There's a couple of things you gotta be aware of if you're gonna do this. The first is, after you get off your Pioneer and you turn it off and you leave it, the engine is still radiating heat, and that heat comes upward, so it'll keep that thermostat hot. And if you forget to turn off your switch right here to the thermostat, then the thermostat is going to keep the blower blowing, and that could drive down your battery voltage. After I did my test drive, my blower stayed on for 7 minutes. So always remember to turn your switch off. And that's another thing, if you put a switch on, don't use a cheap switch like I did. I used this little toggle switch because it's what I had on hand, but there's no light on the toggle switch, so it's easy to forget it's turned on. And if that toggle switch is turned on, then you have power going to your thermostat circuit. Now, if I didn't drive my Pioneer for 3 weeks, that thermostat circuit may drive down my battery voltage. So that brings me to the next point. I recommend if you're going to do this, you put in a second battery and you run all your accessories like your lights, your cooling fan, your radio, phone charger, whatever, off the second battery. And if you do that, you need to use something like this Stinger. It's a battery isolator. It isolates your second battery and all accessories from your primary battery. You never want to get out in the woods or go off-road and get stuck because your Pioneer won't crank. And if you run all accessories off the primary battery, that could happen. So just think about getting a second battery. It's not really hard to add. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.